The Second and Third Coming, Part 4. As the Apostle John is about to start writing down the vision that he received from Yeshua, Jesus, and disperse it to the 7 ecclesias, the 7 assemblies, the 7 churches, the 7 groups of believers that were in Asia Minor. And why was John writing this? The Master knew the importance of giving detailed directions to his churches, to his assemblies, to his groups of believers, so that they will not be bewildered, so that they will not be tricked, so they will not be deceived by the coming events. You can see that in Matthew, the 24th chapter, time and time again, where the Christ told them, the Messiah told them, let no man deceive you. Be not deceived. Be careful. And now he's starting to write to the church in Ephesus. Write these things. He that has the 7 stars in his right hand and is standing in the midst of the golden candlesticks. He started out with compliments, telling them some of the wonderful things that they've done as believers in him, not coming out beating them down first, but complimenting them. But then he said, nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. Oh, that's so important. When they asked Jesus what was the greatest of all the commandments, he started out, Shema Yisrael, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And he said, the second commandment is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And it's so interesting that the number 1 and 2 things is to love God and to love your neighbor. And we find out that is the first thing that he addresses with this church. How they do not love the Father. How they do not love him like they once did. And it's so interesting because at the end of the book, we are invited to a great marriage feast where the bride, the ecclesia, will be married to the Messiah, the Christ, the Christo, Jesus. Love is the number 1 thing. And that's why he encouraged them to go back and get it right. You remember how it was when you first was in love with something? You were in love with someone, you spent time with them, time really didn't matter, you just wanted to be with that person. But now it seems like the church might have been just going through the routines. He cautioned them at the end, hear what the Spirit is saying unto the churches. We move on to the church that's in Smyrna. The church in Smyrna did not have any things that he had to correct them on. And he encouraged them. He said he knew the tribulation and the poverty. And he encouraged them about some of the things that they was going to have to go through. But he told them, fear none of the things which thou shalt suffer. How he was going to bring them through it, and how the enemy was not going to get the victory, even though some of them might be cast into prison. The church in Pergamos, he write, he which has the sharp two-edged sword coming out of his mouth. And he encouraged them once again. And he talks about how some of them were great martyrs. And he mentioned Antipas in particular, how he stood up. According to tradition, when they burned him alive inside of an idol bull, but he did not renounce Jesus, his Christ, Yeshua. But they had some items for correction as well, because he said they held to the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel. Balaam was a prophet, a soothsayer for hire. Balaam could be bribed to do whatever the highest price bid him to. And he warned this church to not eat of things sacrificed in the idols and not to commit fornication. He moves on to the church in Thyatira, and he once again starts out complimenting them and saying how he was the one that had eyes like a flame of fire and his feet and hands was like fine brass. But they had a really big issue. Why? Because they suffered that woman Jezebel, who called herself a prophetess, to teach fornication in the church. If you are enjoying these videos, please press the subscribe, like, and bell notification icon to be notified of future videos.